So there's been some interesting news regarding Martin Scorsese's next movie. I feel like I've made one video a month over the past half year or so on Scorsese's next film, and every time it's a different movie being announced. I'm not taking the piss here, nor am I trying to generate clickbait views. There's genuinely a ridiculous amount of movies Scorsese is now attached to. And of course, with him getting on in age, there's no way he's going to make all of them. We'll surely get one or two at best. But this new project sounds really interesting, and it's definitely not a rumour, because I've come across an interview from screenwriter Eric Roth, writer of Forrest Gump and Killers of the Flower Moon, where he's actively said he's writing a script for Scorsese, and he's provided details. I do wonder why Scorsese is attached to so many different movies. It's likely, I guess, that he's got several in pre-production, and whichever gets closest to being made, that's the one he'll go for, instead of putting all of his eggs in one basket for a film that ends up getting canned. Or maybe, rather sadly, he's in a frame of mind where he doesn't know what he wants to do, what with so many stories he wants to tell and so little time to tell them, and recent interviews he's given does give credence to this idea. Whatever the issue is, Killers of the Flower Moon was filmed in 2021 and released in 2023, so we're in our second year since the last Scorsese film, and the 82-year-old hasn't started shooting anything new. For what it's worth, word on the street is Leonardo DiCaprio has dropped out of an Evel Knievel biopic with Damien Chazelle to prioritise a new Marty movie, so that's something, I guess. But in terms of the main project Scorsese has lined up, aside from, documentaries and stuff, we have Home, a small-scaled, intimate film, which I think is most likely to be Scorsese's next film. DiCaprio is attached to it, it has a script, and the only thing delaying it seems to be the fact that it's part of a trilogy where characters overlap in the stories, and the other two films are set to be directed by other people, so there's probably some scheduling issues. There's also the serial killer movie Devil in the White City, which was in development with DiCaprio, then it was dead, then it became a TV show with Keanu Reeves, but now it's back on again apparently, though personally, I don't think this one will ever get made. There's always been talk that they can't get the script right, plus Scorsese's last movie was also about serial killers. Fans of Scorsese will no doubt be aware of this bizarre Hawaiian gangster movie with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt that was recently announced. Whether this is The Rock trying to get his movie clout, or Scorsese deciding that making a crime flick with an A-list movie star will be easy to get a green light for, the fact is, this movie will have to have a script written and go through all the pre-production motions, so if it's gonna happen, with Dwayne Johnson saying it's supposed to start shooting next year, it's unlikely to be Scorsese's next film. There's the Sinatra biopic, which he'd probably drop everything to make, but he's still got the issue with the Sinatra estate, so I don't think that one's ever happening either. There's also The Wager, the shipwreck movie, which sounds ambitious, but apparently Scorsese said that at his age, he'd need a co-director to undertake such a project, and this is one that I don't see happening. Scorsese was also set to make a Jesus biopic, which seemed like it was about to start production. They even knew how long it was going to be. Scorsese said it was going to be 80 minutes, but then it was put on indefinite hold, and now it seems like the project is dead. So I don't know what's going on. I don't think anybody does. But yet another contender has now entered the arena. It's got a pretty badass title, Midnight Vendetta, which tackles the Sicilian Mafia in 1890s New Orleans. A completed script by Eric Roth has apparently already been submitted, meaning this project would be even further ahead than the Hawaiian gangster flick, which doesn't have a script written. According to reports, and I quote, the film will tackle the mafia's arrival in New Orleans around 1890, which marked the first major foothold of organized Italian crime in the United States. Sicilian immigrants, many fleeing poverty and violence back home, settled in the city's port neighborhood, bringing with them old-world networks and rivalries. Tensions quickly escalated between local authorities and the growing Italian community, culminating in the infamous murder of police chief David Hennessy in 1890. Hennessy reportedly blamed the Dagos with his dying breath, triggering one of the largest lynchings in US history when a mob stormed the jail and killed 11 Italian men, some with suspected mafia ties. This event thrust the Sicilian Mafia into the national spotlight and etched New Orleans into the origin story of organized crime in America. Now some might say, ugh, Another gangster movie from Scorsese, especially after The Irishman, which was supposed to be his swan song, his closure for the genre. But then again, he's made more music documentaries than he's made gangster films. And since he's the best in the business at it, what's there to complain about so long as the film is good? It sounds different enough at least. In some ways, this movie is about the birth of the Italian mafia in America, and it swaps out Scorsese's love for New York with the untapped New Orleans underworld. The Scorsese film that this reminds me of the most is actually Gangs of New York, and I gotta say, it does sound intriguing. The initial source for this project was weak. After all, none of the major Hollywood news outlets like Deadline have reported it. But there is an interview by David Perel on his YouTube channel in late May, where he interviews screenwriter Eric Roth. I watched the whole 1.5 hour interview, and Roth alludes to the Scorsese film a lot, saying that he was currently writing the script, and if the interview was recorded weeks ago, the script could be done by now. And it's the fact that he keeps bringing up the project when thinking of examples to the questions asked by the interviewer. It shows that the project is real and something that is on his mind. So the first time he brings it up is here when he's discussing lines that become famous and memorable.
I'm just trying to think what I'm writing now, whether I think there might be some things that are kind of memorable, some of the sayings. The early mafia in Sicily had a saying, "We do what we must." And I have that a lot.
What does that mean?
It means that we're going to do what we have to do to sort of protect ourselves, protect, our honor, whatever it is. And then so that it's used a bunch of times.
Here's another time he mentions it.
I did that today. I wrote something actually similar. It was a church wedding that's going on, and there's sort of it's very windy outside. It's supposed to be in New Orleans, and the windows are rattling in the church. And so, and then the director has choice to how much he wants to make them rattle or not rattle at all. He may think it's stupid, but it'll give you a feeling of the time and place. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that even in that's pretty good, I think, because that tells you a lot in the space of like 2 sentences.
And here again, he explicitly says he's writing a mafia movie for Scorsese.
I'm very interested right now because of High Noon in vengeance. Is that a male characteristic? I'm sure there are females who also want vengeance, but what does that mean? What does that mean about anger and everything? So I'm interested in that. And this thing I'm writing for Marty right now is about kind of what we were brought up to be, we end up being in a way. I'm not sure necessarily, but these people were brought up in 1860, 1870 in Sicily, and they went on certain, but they were part of a mafia, and they believe in what this is, and they're not going to really ever get out of it. They do what they have to do, or we will do what we must.
Right.
Yeah.
Here again, he mentions a scene from the movie when talking about how weather can affect characters in a screenplay.
I'm trying to think what I wrote recently. I really liked about. It was very windy. It's supposed to be very windy. I got in trouble with the scene I was writing and this thing for Marty, and I decided I'd make it really windy where they are, and people's hats are all coming off. So you have I would like to have 50 hats.
Like a swirl.
Yeah, they're all swirling around. I think that looked like pretty good,
Here we get some more details about the movie.
I brought in, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but in this same Marty movie I'm writing, that the lawyer who takes charge of things for our hero, or in quotes, our main character, is a small person. And he's like a great Southern character, And so we'll see how
you got all these Southern characters.
Well, this is
New Orleans 2 movies.
I got this other one's New Orleans. Yeah, it's nothing. There was just a great historical interest in 1890 that happened, and that's just where it was.
Yeah.
The Killers of Flower Moons in Oklahoma. You go where it takes you. I don't think you have a choice about it.
Here again, we get some story details.
Like this thing I'm writing is. The woman he's in love with is the daughter of his rival, like Romeo and Juliet in a way. and it's dangerous, So as they get closer and closer, it becomes more fraught. Um, and
Wow.
and eventually the father says, "You're dead to me," So and eventually he may even kill her, So anyway, so it becomes just more dramatic, I hope.
Here again, he brings it up and describes a key scene.
Okay, tell me more about the details.
Well, the details just pop up when you're doing, like 1860 Sicily, and then you start reading about, well, they were fighting for citrus. Who was going to control the citrus crop? And the winner was eventually this one family. And I love this detail, as a sign of their victory, they put a lemon on top of their gate. I mean, it was a tall gate, but a lemon on top, and that made them the victors. And I don't know. And so I had a scene where in this thing, I have a scene where our hero, or I'm not sure he's so heroic, but anyway, the lead in the movie is wants vengeance on a rival Don, and he comes sneaking into an opera, and while the opera is going, I have him slit his throat, and the guy whose throat he's slitting is a guy who fancies himself as kind of a singer, so he's doing a baritone with the opera singer. Yeah, so that was pretty good.
Wait, so how in the world, with like 1860s Italy, like I wouldn't even know how to think through character. I mean, I guess you can read a lot, but
I read some, but also
so
I
much.
just envision, well, let's say it's an amphitheater, so it was outdoors. I did it,
Yeah.
because they had outdoor amphitheater. It's supposed to be a small kind of town, and he sneaks behind this guy, this kind of rotund guy who's sort of full of himself and unscrupulous guy who probably deserves to get killed if you believe in that stuff. And I have him cut his throat. So what I did then was, because that wasn't enough for me, I have that the opera singer is the only person who saw him cut his throat. So he has this for the rest of our movie, and he becomes a slightly instrumental character because the whole group of them are come to New Orleans because for various reasons, they brought all these Sicilians to New Orleans, and that's where the mafia started in America. But this guy knows that he cut this guy's throat, and he has that on him in a certain way. Yeah.
So clearly, this project, which has just flown under the radar, is far more advanced in development than we might first think, as we've got Roth here actively saying he's writing the script and describing specific scenes he's created. So what do you make of this? Of course, there's little use in getting excited until a camera starts rolling, but I like the sound of it. A mafia period piece from 1890 directed by Scorsese with Mustache Pete running around in a wild, factual story sounds great. Throw in the birth of the mafia aspect, and it sounds like a cool movie idea to end up as Scorsese's last film, potentially. I still think Home will be his next movie, and I like the idea of Scorsese doing a smaller film about faith, fathers and sons, and from everything Scorsese has lined up, Midnight Vendetta sounds the most exciting to me. Plus there's the fact that it of course has a script, which can't be said of the likes of the Dwayne Johnson movie. In fact, pretty much all of Scorsese's supposed upcoming projects are either dead or have no script, unlike Home and this Eric Roth project. So yes, it's speculation at this point, but we might have just found out what 2 movies Scorsese is doing next, which will potentially be his last 2 films. Let me know what you think of Midnight Vendetta down in the comment section below, and what film do you want to see Scorsese make next? Thanks for watching.